interpretation of financial statements, or in other words, analysis and interpretation, is now you're going to learn to read the information that you recorded. Remember, throughout grade 8, 9, 10, 11 up to now, you only been recording. And now I'm going to teach you how to analyze. So if we want to think about AI jobs, this is not something, because now your human brain are going to interpret. Yes, AI can interpret, but AI can only interpret what's already read into his system as data. He cannot interpret outside of the box. So you need to think. Learn to think how to interpret. Okay, so let's go look, because this part of the job will always be there. Now they say, so when I look at ratios, ratios are basically classified into different sections. So you'll see here is number 1, profitability. Okay? Then when you turn the page, now can you see profitability has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ratios. Okay. Next one is solvency. Now solvency literally got 1 ratio. Then we got liquidity. And liquidity has got 6 ratios. Okay? 1, 2, and I already numbered it. 4, 5, 6. Then we've got risk or gearing, which has only 1 ratio. Grade 12, you're going to learn another one. And then we've got returns. Now returns actually only got 1 ratio for the partnership in total, but you can also do it per partner. Ryu, please wake up. So, let's start.
Those are just ratios.
Yeah. And you're going to love ratios, because ratios is a gold mine of tips. Not the ones that bite you, the one that gives you a percentage, a higher one. Okay. So, if I look at profitability, I call this the on ratios. And you'll see, all the names of the ratios is something on. So, look at this. It's profit on sales. It's gross profit on cost of sales. And so on and so on and so on. Okay, we'll go through each one separately. But you will also see your profitability ratios. You'll find the info in the income statement. Okay, so this is all about what is influencing this business ability to make profit. Okay, so usually how they give you ratios is they will give you ratios like this. They will give you information for 2 years, like this. So, okay, no, that's not the ratios. Okay, so this one's, yeah, like this. So they will give you the ratios for 2 years, last year and this year, because you want to see if there's an improvement or not. I mean, if I say, let's just quickly think. If I say, person A got 80%, what do you think? Immediately. Whoa, that's amazing. Distinction. Right. But if I give you last year's results, last year person A had 95%. So now, does it change the way you see the 80%?
Yes.
Definitely. The same goes if I say person B has got 40%. You're like, Or if I say person B has got 30%, then, yeah, you see exactly, ne? But if I give you last year and I say person B last year had 10%, does it change the way you see it? Yes, because now you think, wow, this person worked, and now they are passing. Last year they weren't passing. Can you see the moment you compare it with previous year's information, the way you see the ratio is going to change. Okay. Now, when I look at profitability, all the ratios, you can make a note somewhere. Somewhere here next. All the on ratios. If it increases, in other words, if it's more than last year, you will be happy. Except, now listen to this wordplay, except expenses. Expenses you want to decrease to be happy. Can you see? Except expenses. Okay. Now, let me explain to you this on ratios because they are for sure going to give you a lot of marks. The on ratio is literally this. Quickly look what I'm doing. I'm putting this remote on the table. Which one is on top? The remote or the table? The remote. So when I read this transaction, it actually tells you the ratio. It says percentage, and because they use the word percentage, I know I'm going to times with 100. Duh. Okay. Now, gross profit on sales. So they talk about it can be gross profit on turnover. Now, turnover is just a fancy smanchy paper 3 word for sales. Okay. And usually it's sales less debtors allowance because it's that one that's on the top of the income statement. That's your. When I was in school, we didn't say sales less cost of sales. We used to say turnover because then we know the turnover was the sales less the debtors allowance. Okay. So now, gross profit on sales. Can you see gross profit on top, sales at the bottom? The percentage gross profit on cost of sales. Can you see? Gross profit on top, cost of sales at the bottom. You see? How difficult is this? Let's look at the other 4. Percentage of operating profit on sales. What's going to be on top? Oh, come on. Operating profit on turnover. Turnover being sales less debtors allowance, meaning the sales at the top of your income statement. If I say net profit on sales, net profit on top, sales at the bottom. Operating expenses on sales, expenses on the top, sales at the bottom. Can you see? Okay. Now, let's go look at the meaning of this. So, the gross profit on sales is actually what they call the gross margin. So it shows what percentage the selling price is available to cover operating expenses. Let's quickly think. If your selling price is 100%, né? And now you say your gross profit on sales, né, is 50%. Then it means the other 50% went towards the stock that I sold. So from the sales, I've got 50% left to cover my expenses. Does it make sense? Okay. You're not going to write that. So you can relax. Compared to previous years, so you want it. Why would it be different? Because your markup changed. Because your sales prices was incorrectly marked. Remember now, what's the 2 things in play here? The sales and the gross profit. How do I get gross profit? Go back in your head to your income statement.
Oh yeah, your sales.
How do I get gross profit is sales less cost of sales. So, in other words, so I'm working literally with the sales, less cost of sales gives me gross profit. Now I say that gross profit on the sales, the percentage. So the only thing that can influence it is the sales and the cost of sales. So if I say to you, why did it change from last year to this year? Let's start with sales. Oh, my markup changed. Number one. Number two, I had a lot of marketing, right? Which means way more people came to my store and I could sell away more. Cost of sales, I gave discounts. Can you see? Cost of sales. I got a new supplier who supplies the stuff cheaper, but I still keep the price that I had last year. Can you see? That's going to change. So now, I say to you, if it decreases, go look at your pricing, avoid too much discount. What do you want to know? If it increases, we are happy. If it decreases, we are sad. That's all. Gross profit on cost of sales is one of your most important ratios. And they don't tell you to calculate the gross profit on sales. On cost of sales, they're going to ask you to calculate the markup. Ne? Now, can you see once again, we're working with the sales less the cost of sales over gross profit. So now, I put the gross profit on the cost of sales because that's my markup. Remember, if I buy this calculator for 200 Rand and my markup on cost is 100%, how much is my sales price? 400. Because the markup is on the cost. Remember, when I do that calculation, I must say the cost price is 100 plus the profit. Give me the sales is 100 and something. Ne? Okay. So now, what do they want to see with this ratio? So with this ratio, they literally want you to compare your markup with actual markup achieved. And now you say, huh? So let me explain. Since grade 8, you do the CRJ. Then they say, cash sales, 700. And then in brackets they say the markup on cost is 20%. You remember? Okay. So in other words, they will tell you what is the markup the business use. So let's say the markup the business use is 80%. Now you go and you do this calculation. You take the gross profit divided by the cost of sales times 100. You don't get 80%, you get 78%. You're like, and now they ask you, why is it different? Can you see that 78 is the actual markup achieved? Why is it less than the markup? This is what I set out to mark up. Why didn't I in the end get that 80%? Why did I get 78%? Now let's quickly go look. Let's go look. Can my cost of sales change?
Yeah.
No. Because cost of sales, if I buy this calculator at 100 Rand, I bought it, it's done. What's the thing that can change? The price I sell it at. Okay? So if I want to sell it to Wakanda, I'm going to ask 400 Rand. But now Tiamo comes, and because I like him, because I taught him since grade 9, I'm going to give him a discount and I'm going to sell it to him for 300 Rand. Is the 100 Rand cost price going to change? No. So the only thing that can change here is the sales. And why would my sales change? Think of Tiamo, I gave a discount. That's why. If Edgar's have their red hanger, do they still have the red hanger sales? Or the end of range sales? Or the end of season clearance sale? And, you know, they must got sales. Why? Because they want to get rid of stock that didn't sell. Because they don't want to store it for next year, because then it's out of fashion. They want to get rid of it because we talk about that your cash is tied up in your stock. You need cash to come into your business. So you would rather sell it for a lower price, cash comes in, than you have to sit with the stock and it's just sitting there. So all stores have sales. And what is a sale? A sale is literally just a mark down of the sale price. So instead of asking an 80% markup, they make it a 50% markup. Okay. Or they will take the sales price as it is and say, oh, it's a 50% sale. So then they half it. Then you cannot know that their markup was at least 100%. So if they made it a 50%, they didn't make a loss. Yes. I can't hear. How? I didn't hear the first part. Oh, I don't know. I know a lot of people that are sole traders would make it 100%. And I know, for instance, if you make something for people, for instance, if you're a dressmaker, you would ask the cost of the material double. You get what I'm saying? So in other words, so if I'm making a dress and this is the material and the material costs 100 Rand, I would ask you 200 Rand or 250 Rand. So that if I make a mistake and I have to replace the material, I'm not making a loss. So there's different, it depends on the industries. And it depends on the product. Because I can promise you the markup on a pen is way higher than the markup on a calculator. P&A is not going to have the same markup on both of them. Because this one is a very cheap product. So people are not really going to figure out, oh, I tripled the price. Because it's still going to be 5 Rand. It's cheap for me. Whereas this is a more expensive item. So a more expensive item, their markup can't be that high because it's already expensive. So, but it depends from shop to shop. I once heard that Edgar's has a markup of 300%.
Well, it makes sense.
Which makes sense because they have to cover for all the bad debts, né? Because a lot of people do not pay. They've got a lot of people that don't pay because they give out credit left and right. They have to cover all the stock that doesn't sell. They have to cover all the stock that's stolen. So in the end, yes, their markup is 300, but how much of the 300 literally goes into their pocket?
Plus, ma'am, if you're getting these clothes cheap,